Hi everyone, welcome to the One DEI thing. DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I am Natasha Green, the project lead for this series, and I am super excited that you decided to join or listen to this on replay. Shout out to the folks who will be replaying this. You get mad love from me also. This is an AnitaB.org webinar series in which men share one thing they did to improve their company's culture. Absolutely. There are probably tons of things these individuals are doing, but I decided one thing would be enough in the time we have together. All speakers wanted to create a culture so that employees feel that they can grow, learn, and have equal opportunity for advancement in their highest individual potential, no matter who they are, where they're from, what their race is, how they look, or even how old they are. Each speaker believes that an individual potential should not be restricted because of discriminatory practices. This initiative stems from AnitaB.org's mission, where we envision a future where the people who imagine and build technology mirror the people and societies for whom they build it. We do a lot of work connecting, guiding, and inspiring women and our allies to ensure anywhere you see technology being built, you will also see an equal representation of women building and leading those technological products or services, and getting paid fairly. I believe in order for this to happen, many individuals at all levels in the organization will have to advocate and do their part, wherever they are in the organizational chart. That person can shift an organization's culture to be inclusive and a place where everyone feels like they belong and that they are reaching their full potential. So I welcome you to the AnitaB.org's The One DEI Thing. In today's The One DEI Thing, we have Neil Wainwright, who is the CEO and founder of UpHabit. I'm excited to note that he is joining us from Toronto. Kudos! A little bit about Neil. Neil is a software engineer and has been building businesses since he was 26. Now that he's 58, he's learned a lot, which he can show from the bruises and the scars he received mentally, hopefully not physically, along the way. He has a passion for great products, great teams. He delights in making sure his customers are satisfied. He coaches women founders often, and I just can't wait to hear what he has to say about from hiring around the world.
Great, thanks very much, Natasha. So hi everybody, my name's Neil Wainwright. I'm a CEO, of startup founder in Toronto, Canada. And I just started another business a couple years ago called UpHabit. And it was an interesting situation for me because my last company, I ran it for 15 years. And I sold it to private equity. And then I decided after about 6 months of sitting around, realized that I wanted to build another business. Interestingly enough, I'm based in Toronto, Canada, but all my engineers were in Montreal. So I didn't have a tech team around me that I could, former employees after I sold the business that I could call up and say, hey, let's do the next thing. So I had to sit back in Toronto and figure out, okay, well, how am I going to hire tech developers in Toronto where nobody knows me in the tech community in Toronto because I had an expense management company and I sold around the world. Most of my clients were in the US. I had companies like Slack, Marketo, Splunk, if you know anybody in tech, those names might be familiar. Oh, CrossFit, anybody who likes to really get beat up, they know CrossFit. And Fitbit, another one. And so when I decided to build this new company, I'm an engineer myself, but I don't write software anymore. But I wanted to build this great team of people. So I had to decide, how was I going to bridge that gap? Local talent. And by the way, up until actually 2 weeks ago, and I hope everybody's safe, there was a huge shortage of local talent in the technology space, obviously probably everywhere in the world. So I had to figure out what I was going to do to build my team in Toronto. I decided to do two things. The first thing I decided to do was hire a consulting company to build the first version of my product. And I paid them a lot of money, but the plan was always that I was going to have my own team that I could actually pass off the completed code to kind of advance and take forward. Unfortunately, the consulting company I paid a lot of money to gave me a really terrible product. And I had to then rebuild it from the ground up with my own team because I knew as an engineer what I wanted it to be like. I knew the quality I wanted, and then fortunately the consultants that I had hired didn't deliver that for me, so I had to rebuild it. So what I'm going to talk to you about right now is my the way I hired international developers and some of the values that I believe in when hiring people and when bringing them into a country is what I did. I hired people from outside of Canada and I moved them. I paid their moving expenses. I moved their families. I moved their spouses. I moved their kids to Canada to start a new life. So first thing is, and I know this isn't quite the case all around the world right now, but the Canadian government has a program where they say, you know, if you want to bring in international people, you have to train Canadians, people that are inside Canada as well as part of that program for us to allow you to hire international developers. We certainly want to encourage gender diversity, and that's one of the focuses of the Canadian government. So, and they wanted us to make intern commitments. So what they're trying to do is bring in yes, you can bring in international engineers from wherever you want in the world. And I'll talk about what they have to go through as part of that. But as part of that, our agreement to let you do that, you have these certain things you need to do. So, I hired 5 international developers. My commitment was to hire 3 interns last summer, and they were all women. So I got a chance. They were 1 support intern and 2 in our user experience team and a user interface team. And these were all their first jobs. This is all their first opportunity to get work experience. And I made sure that all 3 of those hires were women because, I believe a lot in diversity. I also believe that, like no company will succeed if they don't believe in it. They just, there's not enough talent out there. And the diversity of thought, thinking, and approaches to things are absolutely necessary in this day and age. So in the Canadian program, this is just for your information. You have to pay them at least 80 grand a year, which in Canadian dollars would be like 55 grand US. So I pay them a lot more than that. So it's kind of a low bar to jump over, but it's one of the things they put in place. They make sure they have to be senior people. So they need at least 3 years in a senior role doing what I'm going to hire them to do. And the other thing that's interesting and important is that it is a skills-based process, but they still have to go through the regular visa process. So when I brought in developers, I'll talk to you a little bit about the process I went through, but they still have to, the company has to get approved to hire an international developer. So I went through that process. And then the employee themselves have to go through a formal, their health checks, their language checks, their education checks, all the stuff that governments around the world apply to new visa applicants. They had to pass all of that stuff before they were allowed to come in. So it wasn't just that I could hire anybody. I had to hire someone skilled. I had to pay them properly, and they still had to go through all of the checks and balances that happen around the world when governments are, allowing you to bring in other people. So how did I hire them? So, it's interesting because you're hiring people that you've never met face to face. You literally, we posted, we use an HR system called Bamboo HR. We created the job spec in Bamboo HR. We clicked publish. It offered to tie it into Glassdoor and Indeed and publish there for free. But Indeed was another one of my former customers. And then, all these resumes come flooding into our HR system. So what did we do with it? Like, we just literally got 200 resumes that came in. Well, I'd go through the resumes, I would parse them, I'd look for people that I thought would be a great fit for the organization. I did a Zoom meeting, just like we're doing this right now via Zoom. I would interview them via Zoom. I wouldn't take that long. It'd probably take 15 minutes. I was just looking for, is this person going to fit in with our corporate culture? I mean, we believe in privacy very highly. We had some people that would talk like they didn't really care about user privacy, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not hiring those people, or that person, I should say. And then we have empathy is one of them, integrity is another one. So we went through, and what I liked actually as part of our hiring process is I defined the values of the company, and there's 5 of them. So I defined the values of the company, and then when I came time to hire people, I would interview them based on those 5 values, and it helped me make a lot of the decisions that I made. So once I did the Zoom meeting, what did I do next? Well, we did a code test. We were hiring engineers, software engineers. And for those of you that don't have an experience working with software engineers, and I've got a lot of it, everybody can have gone through 4 years university, be engineers, graduated, and they could be terrible developers. Other ones who don't have that background can be incredible developers. I don't think, well, maybe Elon Musk did graduate. He went to Canadian University for a couple of years, actually the one I went to. And, you know, some of the brightest people never graduated university. I think he did, but some people don't, but they're still brilliant at writing software. So we put them through what's called a test. The system we use is called Codility. It's a tough test. It tests people's thought processes. I would tell people it takes 3 hours, and then you have some people that decide they're going to take it during a lunch break at work and they don't do well on it. And then they ask for more time. And I'm like, but I already told you, you know, this was the process. You had to set aside 3 hours. So if you didn't follow those rules, then you weren't really listening, which is probably not going to work out so well when I have to move you across the world into Canada and have you show up at the office, but have that same approach to maybe something you need to do in the software. So it's a tough code test that weeds a lot of people out. Once they go through that code test and they pass, we're all excited because only about 1 out of 20 pass. We do what's called a technical workshop. So just like we're having a Zoom here, our engineers would have a Zoom with the candidate, and they would actually just talk to them about their thinking, how they would approach certain problems. My engineering team, one of the things I care deeply about is they be really nice and very humble. So they don't have any massive egos at Up Have It. And they would get a sense for what the person's like. And some people, they try and cheat around the code tests. Well, when you get in a technical interview and people are asking you questions, there's no way you could have searched the internet for an answer for. It's going to become very obvious pretty quickly to the people you're talking to if the way you're speaking doesn't line up with what you did online in terms of a code test. So that's another thing that we do. And then we do a culture fit interview, which involves everybody in the company, and it's a big Zoom one like we're doing now. And everybody gets a chance to talk about the company, talk about whatever they want. Some people, they're coming from different areas of the world, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And they'll talk about what it's like to move to Canada, what it's like to live here. Make sure you have a winter coat in the winter. But if you enjoy the seasons, you'll have a good time. And then I make an offer. Now, after the offer, you think, well, okay, that was pretty easy. The reality is, once I've made the offer and it's been accepted, this is when the government kicks in. In our country, there's a 2-week process where you give the offer and the person's resume to the government. Within 2 weeks, you give them $1,000 of your money too. Within 2 weeks, they come back with an answer saying yes or no to be able to hire that person. If they say yes, it's not like the person is in the front door. Then they take this letter that the government produces called an LMIA letter in Canada, and then they have to go through the regular visa process that everybody has to go through that comes to Canada, except that letter means they're at the top of the pile. So I literally have had engineers go from offer to yes to the government giving their first stage approval to yes them getting their visa stapled or whatever they do in their passports within 4 weeks, sometimes 5 weeks. And so it's a pretty quick process. Then they have to quit their job, then they have to start booking flights and all that stuff. So I was able to bring people into the country, and it worked out really well.
All right. I have a question then, because
Sure.
I have a feeling that there's something here that people should take. So are you thinking that the reason why you have such a detailed process that is also like sort of blinded and all that now because before you never had a process like this? Or were you always about equity in the hiring process of looking at ways that we could partner up with government?
I don't know that I never want to partner up with government.
Are you your initiatives?
However, I think this is the first time I've really liked a government program. So it worked out really well. I mean, these guys were obsessive about answering within 2 weeks. And I'm like, is this the government? I can't believe they want to answer within 2 weeks and they're obsessive about it. Like if I'm missing something in the paperwork I gave them, they're calling me like every hour because they know they got a 2-week deadline. It was just unbelievable. I've always had a belief in equality, and that goes back to my first business in 1988, where most of you might not have been born, but I had a business back then. And it's always been really important to me. It's been really important to me.
Wonderful. So folks who are listening, just remember what he's saying, right? He took this belief with him where he is now of building this company. It's not something
eight companies.
He went through 8 companies. Okay, you could continue, but if I interject and ask questions like that, please don't mind me, because I'm really curious on this mindset too.
One of the proudest moments in my life was in 2015. I was still running my old business. I hadn't sold it yet. And there was a lot of rhetoric happening by a certain individual. And then we hired our latest support person in our support team. And his name is Muhammad Islam. And I thought it was the most amazing thing. And the guy was so kind and so gentle and so smart and so good for our company. I just felt really proud as a leader that we had someone like that on board. My second one was when we hired a woman in the support team, and she had asked for a prayer room because she was Muslim, and you're doing prayers throughout the day. And we just kind of scrambled to figure, okay, how do we accommodate her? How do we get this done? And that was another moment that I was really pleased with too. So what you'll see here, the guy in the top left, he's kind of back a little bit. On the top left, his name is Musa. He came from Kazakhstan, where they build rockets in the middle of nowhere. Brilliant guy. The guy top center, his name is Tiago. He's from Brazil. Also brilliant. Those two guys like to talk about math a lot. Gabe Castro on the bottom right. He's actually a Canadian, but he came to Canada from Colombia as a 6-year-old. And then, of course, you see me in the background. And this is Pi Day a year and a half ago, 3.14. And we have a great team. We're based in a WeWork office in Toronto. And it's been amazing. I have 2 engineers from Lebanon. So I have, if I add the 5 up properly, the international ones, I have 2 from Lebanon, 1 from Dubai, 1 from Brazil, and 1 from Kazakhstan. And as soon as I start hiring again, they're amazing people. Their English skills are incredible. Their passion for doing great work is unbelievable. And I'm never more proud than when I get a chance to work with them every day. As I said, they're outstanding people. They're like Al, old Al or young Al. And they're super, super smart. And they've all now, you can see, by the way, my wife and daughter were talking in the corner. Sorry, I forgot to turn that off. She's away at university and they talk a lot given these times, but they're going to be in Canada forever. What happens is once they come to Canada, they come on a 2-year work permit, but after 1 year, they can apply for their equivalent of what a US green card would be, which is called a permanent residency. All of my engineers that have come now from outside of Canada have their PRs, which is, like I say, the equivalent of green card. They're here forever. And then within 3 years, they get to apply for citizenship. So I've done a good thing for, I think, my country, because I've brought in these brilliant people that are going to be contributing long after I've retired. So I'm really, really pleased with that.
Okay, so you have outstanding people, super smart, motivated. Oh, did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you have outstanding people, super smart, super motivated. So do you think they also come with the emotional lens, intelligence that you require, or have you instilled that because of the way you work? Or was it already instilled in them and you saw how they work before they even got to you, like how they took their exam? Did they ask for extra time? They
brought it with them.
Okay.
I was very clear about what the corporate values were, and it includes empathy and integrity. And they just, because I defined the values of the company and I put it right up on the job specs when I would apply, and when I interviewed them, I would talk about it. I'd say, look, we have a no asshole rule. Like, if you're an asshole, don't bother, because we'll figure it out. And if you actually get all the way here, you're not going to last anyways, because we're going to figure it out and realize we made a mistake and let you go. So don't be an asshole, or don't continue. It worked out really well. They came with those kind of values and that level of empathy and integrity.
Amazing. Continue.
So from an American perspective, obviously, please be safe in these times. I know right now no country in the world is hiring anybody internationally because the borders are all closed. But I think there's massive opportunities going to be in front of us as far as what we can do coming out of the current crisis we're in. It's going to build there. So I wanted to thank everybody. I'm here to answer questions. Our product is a personal CRM. It's free during COVID-19, so you can sign up for a 90-day trial and then cancel the trial, so before the end of it, so you never have to pay us a penny. I'm here to help you in any way you can. You can reach out to me afterwards. You have my name. I'm sure Natasha will pass all my details. I'm quite happy to help anybody at any time, because I spend a lot of my time giving back and coaching entrepreneurs at this stage of my life.
Amazing. So while people decide what question they have, you all, you have 10 minutes Q&A with Neil. My question to you is, as you coach and as you go through this process of empowering the next generation of an entrepreneur that might be a unicorn, or an entrepreneur that might gross $1 million or 100K, are you seeing that because they see how you are working as a leader, that they are instilling some of what they see from you into their practices? Or are you seeing that you have to really tell them, you as a leader need to become control competent, or you as a leader need to read such and such?
A manager tells people things, a leader inspires people. So it's always, I don't tell, I kind of inspire. I'm probably the most enthusiastic person when it comes to building software. You're one of the most you'll ever find. So I get excited about what they're doing and who they are. I hired, the gentleman from Kazakhstan as a Android developer. And then we had a need to start building a web UI. And I turned to him and said, "Hey, you want to learn the web?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And I just basically, put him on the web team, and he had to learn how to build web products. And now he's leading our web UI. But I try and inspire. I don't really try and tell.
Go do that. No. So coming to the remote workers, and someone posted a question. So they wanted to know, A, what do you think about remote workers at this time? And B, is there a wage gap that currently is held at your company? Or is it everyone is paid and it's transparency?
Well, there used to, she moved on to another job, but there was a wage gap because one of my team members was paid more than all the men. So no, there's no wage gap. And I didn't hire these international developers so I could pay them less. I pay them quite well.
Good. Okay. Another question is,
no, around remote workers. We've been remote now. We used to be 2 days a week. Now we're full time.
Yeah.
We might even give up our WeWork space because we don't need it right now. And one of our engineers posted on Slack last week. He said he's office sick. So it's not he's homesick. He misses the office and the people he works with.
Listen, I tell you, there's a lot of things going out around now. I'm just like, what's all of this? WFH, what's that? Another question is, have you ever had to fire one of the international workers or come close? What's the not rosy side of doing that?
Well, one of the toughest things you have to do as a leader, if someone's not working out, you have to let them go. And because it's causing anxiety for the rest of the team members. There's someone who's not working out. It's not working out for everybody, not just you. But it's one of those tough situations. I have not had to let not even come close. They're all amazing people. I would want to work with them for the rest of my life. So I haven't needed to do that.
That's amazing. Any other questions? And y'all could actually, we have a verbal question. Y'all don't just have to hear me or Neil. Like if someone wants to take the initiative to ask a verbal question, you can. All right. So, oh yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, hi, this is Wendy.
Hi.
Um,
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, thank you so much for coming and talking about your work experience with hiring people. Um, I work at a large company, and we see the same issues you do from initial steps to getting people through the hiring process. Um, Everyone does have a bias, and I'm curious about, this test that you rely heavily on. How do you feel it is on, a bias one way or another?
Well, it's purely it's automated, so it is an algorithm test for engineers. So it doesn't test any. It doesn't even test how well they write Java or whatever or JavaScript. It's language agnostic, even from a computer perspective. It just tests the way they think and solve problems on an algorithm basis. So it's completely unbiased from that perspective.
Okay.
We're
It's
more biased to hiring women as engineers than anything, because the team really wants to support diversity in a deeper fashion. So if there's any bias, it's that way, not the other way.
okay.
Okay, so we're at the halfway mark. I mean, Neil still has time, so I am going to ask Neil if there's anything he suggests other individuals on the team to do. That would be great. Or if it's just something that that will move people in their managerial styles as it relates to leadership, feel free. You have time.
I think as it pertains to leadership, focus on values first, and develop your own set of values. Or if you're a leader in the company or the CEO, or a founder, develop the company's values and then live by them. Your employees will hold you accountable for them, but you should hold yourself accountable for them. And like I say, if you ever want to reach out to me, there's my phone number, there's my email. By all means, at any time, day or night, you can, don't call me in the middle of the night, I guess, but email me in the middle of the night. You'll probably find out I woke up and will reply to it sometimes. Yeah, just become a values first organization and a person, and I think that'll take you far in your career.
That's amazing. I mean, can I just put out one more question? I know I said
Sure.
You had the last word, but someone had a diversity question. Okay. What are you doing in your organization to make sure that everyone feels included?
Well, part of it is never showing bias one way or the other. The other one is being outspoken about diversity and inclusion. There's a certain restaurant chain that opened up just part of our building that maybe didn't have the most stellar history and inclusion and diversity, and I just said, okay, I just one day said I'm never going to eat there. You talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Well, that's putting your mouth where your values are, I guess. So it's just people hear words, but I think actions speak louder.
Absolutely. All right.
And if I could put a plug in for Matt, he's also been interviewed by our team and all that stuff, and he's been a great guy for us too. So go, Matt.
Yay, Matt. So I know Matt said he's going to be BRB, and I have a great news for y'all. Matt will be speaking when he comes back. And I'm just going to end this recording because I'm going to have to chop it up and cut it up and not have our Q&A on it, but I'll stop this. Thank you so much, Neil. I'll give people time to take a snapshot of your contact, but similarly, I will follow up with his contact information for everyone. So people, hold still.